Hello, everyone. My name is Pharmacist Michael. And today we are going to talk about child cancer awareness. So I'm assuming you have some specific things you want to talk about. I can tell you that 43 children are diagnosed with cancer every day in the United States.
That is true.
Yes.
So I'll just tell a little bit about my journey with it and add some facts in there, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, so in let's see, I think it was 2010. Um, my daughter Abby, she started showing like she had all these bruises all over her legs, and it was like someone was taking their fingers and just that's how the bruises look. They were little bitty like fingertips, and they were all over her legs. And I told my mother, I was like, this was 2 weeks before she was diagnosed. I said, I think she has leukemia because I worked at the hospital and I kind of knew the signs of it. And she was kind of pale and everything. So, sure
Hi,
enough,
Jennifer.
I had got sick. Can you see me? Sorry.
I can see Jennifer's here. I see her too.
So, Abby, I was sick, right? And I thought Abby had caught what I had, which she may have, but she started running a fever and she was real pale. So we took her to the doctor and he wanted to do blood work. And then he sent her to the ER to get a second opinion. And that's when I found out she was diagnosed with cancer in the ER. And he told me that there was a virus that looked very similar to ALL leukemia. So it could be that too. So I guess he was giving me hope or like whatever because I had to go to the hospital with her. They took her by ambulance to the hospital. And at the time this all happened, there was a huge like ice storm or snowstorm or something. And so like when she got diagnosed, it kind of went kind of fast. It was January 7th, 2011. So, but anyways, we get her the doctor, and she was supposed to be part of these studies or whatever, and she missed it because of the weather. You know, all these people were coming in and stuff, and the hospital was pretty much closed down at the time. You know what I'm saying? Because no one could get in or out.
Right.
And so what they did is when she got there, she immediately needed blood because her oxygen level was low, and your red blood cells carry your oxygen, so she was depleted of all that. It was already 80% in her bloodstream by the time she was diagnosed. Yes, bruises are very common with leukemia. It could be all over the body and on the legs, but they're usually little bitty, like the tips of your fingers. If you see anything like that, I would get my kid checked out. I mean, that's but anyways, they put her port in and started first they gave her blood through the IV, and then she got her port placed, and they started chemo almost immediately on her, and she did okay. She swelled up, because part of chemo is steroids. You got to do the steroids. Like it's like a introduction to it. It's like, and they give you stuff to break your body down in order to receive the chemo. So the first round didn't work with her, so that automatically the study that she got, she didn't, but they had her in something, I don't know, but that knocked her off of that because she didn't the first round of chemo didn't cure her cancer. So um but Lord, I don't think she remembers that much about it, but I'm gonna tell y'all something. The PTSD as a parent that comes with that, having to hold your kid down for them to hurt her, and uh, I hated it, and Abby had to have a feed, she almost died a couple times. And uh, the November of 2011, she got sick and she almost died then. And y'all, she was in the hospital like almost a month. And they were telling me that there was really nothing else they could do for her. They didn't know what was wrong with her. They couldn't get her counts up. And for the first time in my life, because my attitude about it was, God's got this. She's either coming home with me or she's going home with God. That's the only way we can look at this. You got to be realistic. There's kids all around us dying of this. And it's really hard when you get close to people in these places. And another thing about it is I don't like to, like, I'm not dissing nobody, but like, a lot of people have good support systems, and I didn't have that. And so it was really hard to, it was hard. It was very, there's no sugarcoating it. Abby's doing very well today, though. You would never know that she had cancer. She plays the drums in the band, and she's doing very well. And Abby has a twin sister, and there was points in time where Amber, she would start getting the bruises and getting pale, and they were going to do a bone marrow on Amber because they were afraid that she might have it too. And I prayed to God about that because I didn't know what I would do with two kids with cancer. And my mom, she was a support system, but she was a pain in the ass. You know what I'm saying? I love my mom to death, but like she was when she would go to the hospital with me, it would be way harder, you know. But I don't know. I don't know. There's nothing like, though, not having people there for you that in that your time of need. We didn't do all that fundraising, putting buckets out, stuff like that. Though some people did give us money, just like the church my parents went to, the church, some people would give us money just randomly, and the leukemia lymphoma society, or they would send a check, ever so often for like $100 or something like that. And it's crazy because all these kids, Abby, when she got sick, there was a kid that November, he had the exact same thing as she did, and he died from it. And I'm telling you, got to have a special heart to work, because I couldn't live with.
Oh, yeah, I would have a hard time with that.
These people, were amazing. Abby had her favorite nurse. She called her pink nurse. And her nurse would make her something called pretty pink popcorn. It was just like, because she was into My Little Pony at the time, so she made her some popcorn that was pink, and it had like white chocolate and stuff on it. She loved it. Those nurses were so good, the children. There was one though that he got really ugly with Abby, and I really reported him because he jerked her around. Her IV, in her arm, it was occluded, and he kept blaming it on her. And I'm like, what about her white blood count? Was it high? I don't think her blood count was high. No, I think it was low. I think it was low, if I'm not mistaken. Because your immune system, when you get this, it drops your...
Uh-oh. Oh, there you are.
Sorry about that. When your immune system gets low, your white blood counts drop. And I'm serious, like, they can literally see how many white blood cells is in your body. And a lot of times, Abby, she didn't have any. She was in the hospital a lot.
Oh, man.
She kept getting strep throat. It was just like, and then she'd be in isolation the whole time because she was contagious or whatever. And I'm telling you, having a kid in isolation is a lot of fun, But I'm going to tell you this. While we were there, Abby learned how to put puzzles together. And at the age of like 3 years old, she could put 200-piece puzzles together in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
So, yeah,
How long did it take her to get over it?
She had treatment for 2.5 years.
Wow.
So she had something called vincristine. She had some methotrexate, and they would put that in her spine. And they would also, we did week on, week off chemo, where, they'd give her a methotrexate for like a whole week, and then they would see how her body would tolerate it or whatever. And then it took a week to flush it out of her system. It looked like Mountain Dew kind of. And wow. So yeah, she lost her hair 3 times. The third, they told us the more they lose it, it may not ever come back, And just a tip, if your kid ever is diagnosed with cancer and they start losing their hair, just I would shave it down and take a lint brush, and it would just come out easily,
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, but yeah, I got a few facts about it. I mean, I just kind of jotted my tablet here died, so I had to jot some down. But an estimated 400,000 children are diagnosed every year in the world with childhood cancer. The average age of a childhood cancer diagnosis is 8 years old. Some places I saw was 6. Abby was 2 at the time. She was about to be 3. Um, you know, um, Leukemia is the most common childhood cancer. Um, so you got AML and ALL. Well, I'm sure there's a lot more, but the ones that so Abby had pre B cell ALL leukemia, and so they told us that was more rare than AML, but it was harder to treat than AML. But AML, they had to take treatments, I think, for 3 years instead of 2.5 or whatever. Um, but she, let's see. I'm sorry, guys. In case you didn't know, leukemia is cancer in the bone marrow. So it depletes all your stuff, and an estimated 10,470 children age birth to 14 years and 5,480 adolescents 15 to 19 will be diagnosed with cancer this year.
Yeah.
Cancer is the number one cause of death in children. Let's see. There are more than 200 cancer drugs that have been developed and approved by the FDA, but only 6 drugs that are approved for children.
Oh,
See,
I didn't know that. Wow.
childhood cancer, they only get like 4% of the funding for their stuff. So, I really think that they should, I don't know. You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me mad, in a way, because I see all these kids suffering, losing our friends, and um, it was horrific. I went to a lot of funerals of and
Oh boy.
it's not something you ever want to go through, and especially when you're in a supportless support system.
Right.
It was like when Abby got sick in November, like hardly anybody came up there, and I literally almost had a nervous breakdown.
Were you
That's
by
what led.
yourself?
What?
Were you all alone then?
Yes. People kept saying they would come and they never showed up, and it almost drove me to a nervous breakdown. Like I couldn't. They told me there was nothing they could do, and they was talking about. I don't ever want to think about that. I do agree that more research needs to go to children. Hey, honey.
Yeah. He's
I didn't know
here.
you was. I didn't know you was coming in here. I'm sorry, guys. But Abby, she would get those spinal taps, and they would do, like, when her counts would be low, they would redo her bone marrow. Cardio stuff in your life is very common with this. That's why they do um, echocardiograms on them and stuff. They do baseline stuff, and then they check their stuff ever so often, to make sure that they're not injured from it. Um, at one point, I want to say her heart murmur came back. It closed, it closed back up, but and then they're, they're really big on going with your gut, and Abby, she had, uh, first of all, she got a feeding tube, and it went in her nose, and it was just, there was no sleep because it kept going off, and she would throw it up, and I had to go to the ER and get it placed. And sometimes we'd have to wait 6, 8, 10 hours just for somebody to come and do it. She would go give blood at ECM, and so she had to switch from her port because there was afraid of infections to giving blood. Like she had to get like stuck for it instead of in her port or whatever. And so the way I did that, so she wouldn't be afraid, I would go give blood. And I told her when I gave blood, I said, Abby, I said, it's okay. It hurts. I know it hurts. I said, it's okay to have a reaction, but we don't have to be extra about it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to go crazy. It hurts, but it's going to be all right. It's just mom. And after that, every single time we'd go, she would say she was going to give blood and she'd be excited about it, you know? But, she, wow. Just looking at her today, it's just how far she's come, and
Yeah.
but I know it's, I try not to dwell on the past and stuff, but there is a lot of PTSD involved in it, you know. Um, when you have to hold your child down so people can hurt them, it kind of does something to your head,
And when there's
And
people dying around you that have the same thing that
yeah,
she does too. I mean,
yeah, and
that's tough.
it was crazy because it's like Abby understood death. I know that's weird, but like I'll tell you why. Because we were watching Snow White one day, and when she was in her little, when she died or whatever, and she was sitting there bawling her eyes out, and I looked, and she knew what that meant, that she was, and it's hard. It's hard to, and then keeping them preoccupied when they're in isolation is just, it doesn't matter how much you bring them. Eventually, they're not going to want to be there no more.
Right.
And the steroids, let me tell you about them steroids. They are the devil. She would eat, like how she would eat, and then she wouldn't have it. She would want it, but then she would eat it and she didn't want it. And then it got to the point where I was like, we got to stop wasting food, Abby. You know what I'm saying? Because I was on a limited income at the time, and you know how it is.
Yeah.
But, she wanted crazy stuff. Like in the middle of the night, one day she saw a pork chop commercial for some restaurant, was watching TV, and it was 3 a.m. in the morning, and she was screaming, I want pork chops. Give me pork chops. I was like, Abby, you're going to wait. But sorry, my alarm keeps going off. I haven't shut it off, but I'm afraid if I go in there, it's going to cut the whole thing off. So, but
It might.
it's just, there needs to be more funding for childhood cancer. It's not right, And let me finish telling you all these facts. So every 2 minutes, a child is diagnosed with cancer. Every 2 minutes. Y'all think about that.
That's crazy.
1 in 4, 1 in 4 or 5 children will not survive, and that's 1 in 4 too many. Let's see. So the most common types of childhood cancer is leukemia and other central nervous system cancers and lymphomas. Did I already say that?
Oh,
Did
I
I
don't
already
think
say?
so.
Okay. And it says in the U.S. as of today, we have about 420,000 childhood cancer survivors. It says, let's see. Yeah. So there are 12 types of childhood cancers though, and those are the most common. I met people though that had some of the rarest cancers that you will ever see. Like the only doctor was at Children's, and they specialized in that. We had people from all over, and I just tell you, like Abby was in her in and out chemo the week on week off, and that's when Hurricane Katrina hit.
Oh.
No, not Hurricane Katrina. Yeah, I think it was. No, it was the tornadoes, the April 27th tornadoes, and y'all, they had, the fence on the sidewalk you walk over across the way is Cooper Green, right? It's in Birmingham, Alabama, and Cooper Green. There's a fence there, and the morgue's right there, and they had all. You wouldn't believe what I seen, and I've heard so many mothers scream and cry over losing their kids, and that's something
Oh,
you don't
gosh.
ever want to hear. I'm telling you, like could not stand up. People had to carry them out,
Oh,
and
jeez.
that's telling you, it's
Yeah,
not,
that.
it's, anyways. Y'all have any questions? Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Michael said it was a tornado.
Yeah, it was. But there were people in that hospital laying all over the floors. There wasn't room to walk. It was crazy, y'all.
Because
But
of the tornadoes?
yes, they killed a lot of people and hurt a lot of people. In fact, at the new children's hospital, there was a kid that got like thrown by the tornado or something, and they named the physical therapy wing after him. It like took his skull. It was crazy.
Oh,
He got
God.
Yeah, he got picked up and thrown, and I remember them pulling him in a wagon. He was there for like 6 months, and I remember them pulling him in a wagon when he got better, and his whole it was crazy. You wouldn't believe it, you know.
A tornado outbreak.
Yeah, look it up. It was April 27th, 2011. It was one of the most common. It was more. It was really popular. There was like several states involved in it down here in the South. So, but I'm I'm just flabbergasted about the kids that die every day that nobody wants to, because it should no child should die of cancer.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, no child should have to live, and no parent should have to worry about their kid getting cancer. That was something that I never worried about with them, like because
Right.
they were relatively healthy, and it just kind of took me for a spin. I will never forget when they officially diagnosed her. It was like I was sitting in a room and the walls were closing in. And then you got to switch to that tough mode. You got to put yourself somewhere else when you're holding your kid down. You can't be in that moment. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, that's great. That is so cool. There needs to be more research on it. ATRT, it's a very rare brain cancer, but I know literally two children that were diagnosed and they died like on the same day, like a few years apart. And so the thing about ATRT is that, well, I'm confused. Can you just brief details of the story? So what part of it?
I think may come in late. She just wants to know what you're talking about,
Okay, I'm talking
just in
about
general.
I'm just talking about childhood cancer and my journey with it and you know stuff like that. My daughter Abby was diagnosed with childhood leukemia when she was two, fixing to be 3 years old, and she had her third birthday party at the hospital. And it's not just so. This is not just impact. It's a family disease because it didn't just impact her; it impacted her identical twin sister too. Amber had to be left out, and the stuff just and not seeing each other for long periods of time, and it was hard because I have a twin too. I have a twin brother, and I know what that's like to miss your twin. And it it's not easy.
Right.
You know, I say that Amber is just as deserves to be just as recognized as Abby does. You know what I'm saying? Because she stood strong through this too. Abby on steroids, she would be mean to Amber, and it just they told me though, that would happen, but I didn't allow that. Even if she was, they told me if you don't discipline them now, then they will be hellions when this is all said and done. You know,
Amber thought her aunt was her mom.
yes,
What?
Amber thought because Amber stayed with my sister so much because I was up there, and
Oh,
Amber could not go up there because of the age limit. You
right.
know, it went even farther. Like Amber could not get any vaccines. Abby could not have any vaccines. Stuff like that. And anyway, so that Amber referred to me as Abby's mom, Abby's mommy, and we didn't get to really spend time together in those times. Me and Amber didn't really get to bond a lot because I was always gone with Abby. And Amber thought we was just having fun up there. She really thought that we were having parties and just without her because Abby would come home with so much stuff from the hospital that Amber just thought we was throwing parties up there, you know. But every single time Abby got something, she would ask for something for Amber too. She wouldn't take it unless Amber had something too.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Yeah, and they accommodated her, you know. Them child life people at Children's Hospital, they are amazing people. And
I think she was the only person, right?
yes,
I mean,
I was the primary guardian. I don't know who Amber and Abby's dad is, so there's no. It was just me. But all this led
wow.
up to, yeah, all this like stuff led up to what ended up happening later. You know, you know, when you don't have family support and you don't have financial support, you know, it just killed it. I'm not saying I'm jealous of these people. I'm grateful for them, but at the same time, it would have been nice not to have to worry about all the stuff I had to worry about. You know, it was Abby got a check every month, but it was only like $500 and something dollars. So, you know, it didn't go very far, to be honest. You know, and I had to take her back and forth to the hospital and pay cab money and all that stuff. And I'm gonna tell you what, cabs are not cheap. But
Right.
I will say this: I had some good taxi drivers that would take me for free sometimes. You
Wow.
know, and the one guy he would do it kind of often. You know, he would pay for it for me, and he didn't. But like New Year's Eve or something, like I made a big meal and invited him. Like I'm not gonna pay him. You know, I didn't have money. You know, I'm not gonna do other things, but I can cook you some food. You know, so I did. I cooked him a good meal, and sorry guys, it's getting a little dark where I'm at. So, but yeah, Abby, you know, Amber and Abby both were born with full of light, and they impact everybody that they come in contact with. And you know, this was no different. People, you know, we went to church and all. People. Okay, so I had two people taking me back. I had two people that took me back and forth. It was a woman and a man. They were married, and they would take us every Tuesday to her appointments in Birmingham. They were from my church. And what they did was, and I did not know this, but at the fire department, they had a fund for Abby. And at the church, they had a fund for Abby. And they would switch it up every time we went with each other so that they didn't have to pay for them and we didn't. So, you know, people came in our life, you know, and impacted our lives. And she impacted people's lives too. You know, and during the whole process, I came up with this idea about changing the face of cancer from fear of death to hope for life. You know, and I just I just honestly feel like if you go into it going, "Oh my God, my kid's gonna die," you know, because the first thought you think when you hear cancer is, "My kid's gonna die," or "My
Yeah.
mom." That death and cancer go hand in hand with each other. As soon as you hear cancer, you think death. But I
Yeah.
really believe that the energy you put into things really does make a difference. So I was like, you know, she's going to survive this. I'm not even going to think about death because that's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You have to get a different mind frame. But
Yeah.
like parent, you know, everybody would cry talking, you know, and I'm like, and I say, I'm sitting here, I can't cry. I cannot break down in front of my kids, you know, and it's just, I don't know. You know, it's hard being strong for you, your children, and the people. You know, I shouldn't have had them leaning on me. I should have been able to lean on them. You
Right.
know, so, but anyways, we're all where we're at for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. But, you know, that's just part of my journey. You know, I've leukemia, cancer,
Oh God.
you know, we're told.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. There's no way. I would have done anything I could, you know. Her doctor told me if they couldn't cure her leukemia, that they would take her to get her in Germany, where Germany is the lead research place on childhood leukemia.
Wow. I did not know that.
That's what the doctor said, and he said if he couldn't do it, that he would get her there to do.
Wow.
You know, so luckily or thankfully, I'm telling you though, was
She
not an easy.
pulled through.
She did. She's tough, real tough. Some things that would make me mad though is like, she would be acting out and stuff, and she'd want stuff, and just like she learned how to. One thing I hated was and this is one thing I really hate is people feeling sorry for her. I feel so sorry. Don't feel sorry for her. Pray for her. Don't feel sorry for my kid. I don't want her feeling sorry for herself.
Yeah.
And I tried to do the most normal, natural childhood I could for her outside of her hospital stuff. A lot of times Abby didn't feel good and she had to lay around a lot. But, that's how it is, with cancer. So she's been cancer free for several years now. So
That's good. That's great.
I'm just thankful to God because I've seen so many. It's so funny because you never think in a million years you're thankful that your kid has leukemia. You would never
Right.
that you would think something like that, but you are thankful that your child only has leukemia and not all this other stuff that can't be cured. Like rhabdosarcoma, that takes your eyesight, right? And we knew several kids that had that and died from it. There's just so much. And the relapse rate on childhood leukemia is very high. So, another thing is they said if she relapsed and they couldn't, and I said, well, if she relapsed and needed bone marrow, we have Amber. We can take her bone marrow. They're identical twins. And
Right.
they told me they wouldn't do it because Amber had exactly the same gene as Abby, and I was afraid it would make her.
Oh.
Yeah, she had
Did she ever relapse?
No, she didn't. She never did. Praise the Lord. But we had a few people that did. Now they survived, but the 5-year survival rate for a lot of these cancers, that's not long enough.
Right.
It's just after 5 years you're considered cured.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but like a lot of kids,
when they start at 2, that only makes them 7.
right. She but they considered her cured like whenever she completed chemo. When she committed when she completed chemo, the day she completed chemo, they considered that the start date.
Oh, that's the start date.
Yeah. So the day she completed chemo, they started.
So she was 4.5 or 5 by then.
Yes, about to start kindergarten.
Okay.
She stopped taking medicine that May, and she went to kindergarten that August. So, yeah, it was. Amber, she went to daycare, and Abby, she just, she couldn't go
Wow.
and play. She'd get upset about it because she wanted to be with Amber, but we couldn't take any risk with Abby getting anything from daycare because it could kill her.
Right.
Anything could kill a kid with cancer.
Yep.
The
Yep.
smallest cold can turn into pneumonia and kill that
Yep.
kid like that fast.
Yep.
And they say with the fevers that every 30 minutes it doubles. So you got to get them somewhere. If they run a fever, then they got to go to the hospital, And I'm telling you guys, Abby ran a lot of fevers and she went to the hospital a lot. And, they considered 1.0, I think it was 102.7 or something like that. If it was higher than that. And, you can't give cancer kids any kind of ibuprofen or Tylenol. You're not allowed to give them anything for their fever because they want it to do its thing, because that means it's trying to heal your body.
Yeah.
So they stop it. They just, and 9 times out of 10, a fever is going to run at night. It's going to be at night time. So,
That's when you end up going to the hospital.
Yeah, that's my experience, and I took a lot of rides to Children's Hospital in the ambulance. So, and I was just thankful I got to be there, Mike, honest to God.
Yeah.
I hated leaving Amber. That was leaving, it's like you have to live a double life. You're this person at the hospital and you're getting hard and you're getting numb and you're full of emotion and nobody can understand it around you because they've never been through it. And it's just a lot to build up, and then when I get home, everybody's expecting me to be strong and be happy and all this stuff. And it was really taking its toll on my mental health.
I'm sure. That
I
sounds horrible.
help for it while Abby was in there, but I was becoming suicidal, and I know that's crazy,
Oh
but
God.
it was so much weight on me. You're gonna break eventually, when you're doing this alone. I'm not saying there wasn't people there, but primarily I was alone in this, and you're the one that's got to do everything. You gotta be there. You gotta make sure she's all right and gets her meds. And I was very anal about her meds. I always kept 3 days ahead because I had seizures, and I would always keep her medicines like 3 days ahead because in case I had a seizure or something and end up in the hospital or something, it would give them enough time to get to the doctor for them to tell them how to do things. So, but Abby would try to play with Amber and her cousin, and she would run, and she couldn't. Like, how do you tell your one kid they can't run and play? I mean, how do you do that? You know what I'm saying? It's just, her legs would hurt, and they told me that would happen. She had a lot of side effects, like her face would feel like things were crawling all over it. She'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming about that. Her legs, one night, this is crazy, but one night she was laying in the bed and she wouldn't go to sleep. And I said, Abby, why are you not going to sleep? She's like, the walls are making my nose itch. It like
Wow.
makes you kind of, she had that, so it was, you know, I had friends at the hospital, but it's not like you can take them home with you,
Right.
You're just friends. I did have some friends outside the hospital that I met and we became closer friends, but, it's just, I learned in that process that you can be a carrier for strep and not show any signs or symptoms, but you can pass it on to somebody else. So
that's true. A lot of things.
That's what Abby kept getting was strep. And it's crazy because like her port messed up, and they were gonna do surgery. Like they were fixing to take her to surgery, and I was like, please try it one more time, because they told me if they mess that vein up and they go on the other one, that you can't reuse the veins that you've already used for the port, right? And sure enough, they tried it and it worked. I prayed so hard about it, y'all. I didn't want her to have to be going through another, because that's kind of major to me. You're putting a port inside of so it got to where, when she go to the hospital, I would have to take her port stuff with me because they would only have the long ones for adults. And she had something called a French power port, and people weren't used to that. So I would have to do her port. They would shut the door and say, "Do you know what you're doing?" I said, "Yes." And they would tell me to do it. And what it is there's like these little things that are like in a thing, and you have to stick the needle in the middle of it. You can feel them,
Yeah.
So, I mean, she had I had to do chemo at home, and I'm telling you guys, this freaked me out because you have to dress out to give your children chemo. Imagine what that's doing to their body if you have to dress out to give it to them.
Yep.
I mean, you can get something messed up with you if you even don't wear a mask and stuff. So and I literally asked them when she was diagnosed, because I really didn't want to have to do this whole chemo thing, because I was wondering if there were alternatives. And I was like, is there something more we can do before we start this chemo? Because I've always heard if the cancer don't kill you, the chemo will. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I was thinking, and they're like, if you won't do it, we'll find someone who will. That's what they, So I'm sorry. I just
Wow.
it's crazy. But life goes on, and that taught me a lot of stuff. And one thing it taught me, and this is one thing that when your kid has cancer, you have to learn to live in the moment, because planning ahead, we've had millions of plans that could not follow through with them because she got sick and was in the hospital. So it really taught me to live like in the immediate future in the time that I had. So, and when there's a lot of deaths, it just makes you closer to your kid. And
Yep.
Abby, she had a real attachment issue with me, because I was sleeping in bed with her at Children's and all that stuff. And, it became, she slept with me all the time. You know what I'm saying? So, which it wasn't a problem or nothing, but, you know, she would cry if she couldn't. But I get it. When she was on her feeding tube, that was so.
And she doesn't remember any of this because she was so young,
She don't remember a
right?
lot. No, she don't remember a lot of it, because I asked her questions about it. Like she used to get her face painted every single time she went to the Children's. They did face
Mhm.
painting,
Yeah.
and I said, Abby, you remember when you got your face painted? She said, no, she don't remember that. So I'm hoping, a lot of that. I hope she has blocked a lot of it out, because I always was. It always bothered me to have to hold her down, and I didn't. I was afraid that she would, you know, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It does something to you.
Yeah. I just can't even imagine.
I didn't. I was always afraid she would remember that, and I was afraid that she would interpret it, that I would, you know, she would get hurt. You know what I'm saying? So, but
I know, we take Joshua to Children's Hospital, and there's a lot of kids that are super sick.
there is, and they
And
got
it's very sad. I don't think I could work in that environment.
um. There's this thing called it's a lung disease, cystic fibrosis. And there was those kids up there. They were like in the fifth and was in the fourth. And the cystic fibrosis kids, they can't be together because the bacteria is in their lungs.
Yep.
And they were isolated from them. It's sad.
Yeah.
I looked at my life, and I looked at Abby, and I thought there are way worse things than ALL leukemia. You know, uh, when you're
Yep.
thankful for that, there, you're when you're thankful for that, that's something, so
Wow.
uh, it's crazy. but
Yeah, that's a lot to deal with for sure.
but I'm thankful today. You got to grow through what you go through. More like you got to glow through what you go through. And sometimes you're gonna do things in life that you don't want to do, that you never imagined you'd have to do.
That's
And
right.
it can make you numb, and it can make you feel like you're alone and nobody can understand how you're feeling. You know what I'm saying? And I'm doing a way better today, but it took me a long time to get out of that. You know, so
Oh boy.
yeah, they got Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and they recognize it. But you can recognize it all day long, but what's the point in recognizing childhood cancer awareness if you're not going to do nothing about it?
That's true.
What's the point in doing that if you're not going to do nothing about it? Because it was at 4% when Abby, and it's still at that. You know what I'm saying? And that was 10 years ago. No, that was more than 10 years ago. And you would think they would have more medicines, less harsh things. They don't. So
Yeah, I don't know. That I'm not even sure. I don't know enough about the childhood chemotherapy drugs to know
another thing people need
why
to
that is.
another thing about it is that people need to know is that childhood cancer and adult cancer is not the same. They are treated very, very differently. A lot of people might think, oh, no, they treat. And my friend was taking methotrexate and it tripped me out because I was like, that's a cancer drug. But they also use it for other things too. Like
Arthritis.
so. But I'm sorry. I hope I never get arthritis, but I can't imagine putting cancer drugs in my system to defeat that. Because those chemos break your body down.
Yep.
And you're just setting yourself up to be sick for real, really sick. So,
Well, they kill they don't just kill cancer cells, they kill other cells too. That's the problem,
right,
including white blood cells,
right.
which are what help protect you from infections. So,
Yeah, they have something called. So when Abby got really sick and her counts wouldn't grow, they have something called a Neupogen shot, and it
yeah,
and it the blood cells, and
Phil
they
Grastrom.
yeah, because I asked them about it. I said, I heard about this shot, and they told me, they said this to me. They said it's your choice. They said, but if she has because they didn't know about her, why she kept her counts was so low at the time. They said if she has one cell of cancer in her and you give her that Neupogen shot, it's going to grow that cancer inside of her, because it grows all your cells. You know what I'm saying? And it grows cancer cells too in your bone
I did
marrow.
not know that.
Yeah. So this is what I said, and I hate to admit this, or I don't know, but she didn't get that shot because I could not imagine her getting sick again, and having to go through all that all over again, all because she got a shot, and you know, I
Yeah,
didn't want to kill her. You feel me?
no kidding.
And the bruises those shots leave are just unbelievable. You know, so it's crazy, man.
Wow,
You
quite a story.
you learn to look at your kid, every day. The thing is like it was like having a baby again because, like, I was checking her all the time to make sure she was breathing. Um, it's I'm telling you guys, it's not. I don't know. It's not something
Doesn't
I
sound
hope.
like something I would want to go through.
I would not wish it on my worst enemy, and that's the honest to God truth. I would never wish this on anybody. The pain, I wouldn't ever. So, but
Oh boy,
I'm sorry if I just, it's a
that's
lot.
okay.
It's a whole lot, and there's stuff that it's hard to talk about, and some of the stuff I'm not ready to talk about, but eventually, you know, just like sometimes she would step on her thing and rip her port out or rip the cord out of her
Oh
port or
god.
whatever, and that right there was fun. We was in bed one night and she accidentally ripped it out. She started playing with that little thing, that ties them together, and she was
Mm-hmm.
doing it under her covers, like going to sleep. And she all of a sudden I feel wetness, and she was bleeding out all over the place from
Oh god.
accidentally opening that up. And then because it touched the floor because it was long, they had to re-stick her and do that because the risk of infection.
Yep.
So, and that's a huge thing, It really is. She got an infection in her port a couple of times, and that's when you're sick and when you're in the hospital, they take blood from your port and each arm to to ensure that it's all, you know what I'm saying? So, then Abby, she had to have something called IVIG,
Yep.
and those are
Immunoglobulin.
immunoglobulins, yes.
Yep.
And that stuff, would perk her up. And blood, when she needed blood, it was like a different kid when she'd start getting it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but we had a lot. They found out that Abby's adrenal gland quit working, which was a very rare side effect of a medicine she was taking to try to get her to eat. And because she wouldn't eat, she had mouth sores and stuff. And we were trying to, it was like an allergy medicine that was, it was like an allergy medicine, but one of the side effects was eating. So they prescribed it to her and it shut her adrenal gland down. And she had to take like 10 times the normal amount of steroids that an adult would have to take. And she swelled
Wow.
up, guys. She was waddling like a duck. You could see the veins in her stomach. It was crazy. It really was. But, you know, one time she said something about her hair. And she thought she wasn't beautiful because you wouldn't think a kid would think stuff like this, But she looked like a little cherub. I'm not even playing. She looked like a little angel. She really did. She got them big old blue eyes, and she really did look like a little cherub. So, but I don't know. Has anybody got any questions? I hope I covered things well.
Does anybody have any questions? How far from where you're going are you?
I am 2 hours.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm going to I think it's Horse Cave, Kentucky.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was a good 200 something miles from where I live. And I'm down about 100 something miles. So,
Wow.
yeah. I just, I hadn't seen Mike in a little while. So I had to go see him because he's close, because he's been up north about 800 to 1,000 miles away from me. So,
Horse Cave, Kentucky.
yeah. Little girl, you'll say hey? You want to say hey?
There's a baby.
She's my little baby.
Yeah.
But God is good, Mike. God is good.
Wow. Yes,
really
I know. I know.
If it weren't for God, Abby, nor I, if it weren't for blood, y'all give blood if you can. And there's another thing that I learned being in oncology, hematology, was about sickle cell. And sickle cell is very common. And if you can give blood, apheresis, they have to have that where it clears their blood out and stuff like that. And a lot of kids do that 3 times a week. So the truth is, guys, is if you can give blood, it's not see, I didn't think about childhood cancer or nothing like this. I didn't know about sickle cell, when I was, and, see, I can't, you have to give whole platelets, platelets for it or whatever. And these kids, man, I used to think that blood was for like trauma instances, stuff like that. Like when I had my girls and I almost died, like I had to have 17 pints of blood products. I literally bled to death. So, you think about traumas, right? Traumas. But I never considered that children would need it. I never considered that kids with sickle cell needed blood. So just remember, when you give blood, you're saving lives. You're saving little children. You're saving teenagers. You're saving adults. Give blood. I hosted 2 blood drives in Abby's name, and we had a good show up for it both times. So, but just spread awareness, guys. Be aware. Be aware of the signs and symptoms of it, because a lot of people ain't aware and stuff goes haywire fast. So just know the signs and symptoms: bruising, being tired, lethargic, being pale. If you notice their lips are like starting to be like bluish, or their gums are like, you really need to get your kids seen about, because I'm telling y'all, it can happen to anybody.
Yep.
Cancer does not discriminate.
Nope. Not at all.
Cancer can happen to anyone at any time. Anytime. We all have the gene for it. It's just your blood, your immune system dropping in order to get it. It's like your body's constantly fighting that off. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah. And, also, children, for instance. This is one thing that I noticed, that children act crazy to little kids that don't have hair and stuff. They act like they make fun of them. And
Of course they do. Yep.
This stuff like this starts at home. Your child is probably going to come in contact with more than one kid with cancer in their life. And they need to know that you shouldn't make fun of kids. It needs to be awareness for the children that know the children. You need to teach your children about childhood cancer and stuff like that. And not to make fun of kids. I'm telling you. These little kids would laugh at Abby and stuff. And I just, so. But parents need to teach their kids. But I'm going to tell you something. I never thought about childhood cancer. I would see those St. Jude commercials, and I would be like,
yeah,
okay, these kids have cancer. But it never like dinged with me. Childhood cancer is not something people think about every day. So there definitely needs to be more awareness, because a lot of people, that's the farthest thing from their mind, honestly. So, and remember, cancer doesn't mean death.
Nope.
Cancer does not mean death.
Especially the kids. The kids
right.
seem to have a better recovery rate than adults do, for sure.
They're resilient. They tell us when Abby first got diagnosed, I literally had to sit on her and straddle her and give her medicine. She did not want to take it.
Right.
And they told me, if we ever check her and she don't have her meds in her system, you're going to be in some trouble for that. And it never crossed my mind not to give her meds. But I think they did that because of what I said, is there something else we can do besides this? I think that's why they said that to me. But, and she would throw it up. And so this was a power control thing with Abby at first. And I called the nurse and I said, because we had a phone nurse. And I told him, I was like, she's throwing up her medicine. They said, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to re-give it to her in 30 minutes. So after the second time I had to do that, Abby no longer threw up her medicine because she didn't want to have to retake it.
Right.
But, I mean, she stayed pretty sick for a long time. And she had some very rare side effects. So, but always go with your gut. Always. If you think something's wrong with your kid, it's better to get it checked out. And if it's wrong, then not get it checked out and your kid lose their life.
That's very true.
So, and 1 in 5 kids die every day. And that's crazy. It's too much.
Wow.
So, and it ain't right, because
no.
I'm not knocking breast cancer. I'm not knocking that. But like, there there should be more funding. It shouldn't just be focused on those kinds of cancers. It's sickening. It's very sickening. So
that's why they do their Cancer Awareness Month, is so they can get, more funding from the public to pay for this stuff.
And the public, it's just, the thing is the public is not aware like they should be. That's the biggest thing, is there's more to awareness than just having a month for it.
I agree with you.
You have to live it. You have to donate. You got Alex's Lemonade Stand. You got the Lymphoma Leukemia Society. You got Children's Hospital oncology unit. If you don't want to donate to that, donate directly to the unit. You
Yep.
know, I mean, it's a tax free. You can file it on your taxes. Anything you give. I'm just sorry, I'm preaching about it, but it's the truth.
Yep.
I'm about, I got my tag. It says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting off the subject, but I got to show you this, Mike. I got my truck, right?
Yeah.
So I got my tag. You see what my tag says?
Oh God.
But I'm about to get a childhood cancer awareness tag. So when I go back,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I just, when you buy those tags here in Alabama, the money goes directly to the unit. So, when I get better off, I really do want to donate because, y'all think about this too. Donate hats, boggins, crayons, coloring books, Play-Doh, anything. You can donate anything to that hospital, and it can help a child. Because the child life specialists are always looking for donations of certain things like crayons, coloring books, markers, movies, you name
Yep.
it. If you don't want to give money directly, just take stuff up there. You know, they take donations all the time.
Yep.
So there are more ways than one to support this.
Toys.
Toys, absolutely. Blankets. You know, if you know how to knit some hats, knit some scarves. Every time we would go in, Abby would get a different hat. They always had hats. So,
Yep.
but it's just there's so many ways to support the cause, and people are really slacking on it. So I myself am slacking too. But when you leave it, you're aware, you know.
That's true.
And I have given to the cause, you know, and all I can do is share my story, you know. That's my awareness. So when it gets better, I know that everybody's not financially always where they need to be at, but any way you can help, it's better than nothing. So. And then at Christmas time, they're really looking for toys and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about an angel tree, like I know, like I want to one day when I get rich, I want to adopt the whole entire angel tree. You know what I'm saying? I want to adopt the whole entire elderly people tree and do that. But just consider skipping that this year and donating some gifts to the children, because I'm gonna tell you what, there are hundreds of thousands of children that are in the hospital on Christmas.
That's true.
They really gifts are always good. The small things. It's the little things, because kids don't look at the big things. They just look at the little things. They don't
Yep.
care how many. They don't care how much stuff costs. They don't none of that. They don't see any of that. They just see what they have in front of them. So, but I hope
That's
that
why
this
they love the
video.
that's why they love the Happy Meals at McDonald's.
Oh yeah, yeah, because it's like their own little box and their toy. My mom used to tell us if we didn't eat, we weren't gonna get it. And look, my mother, and then if you acted up while the process, she would take it away from you and put it up. Well, my mother, she had a whole entire drawer of McDonald's toys, okay? A whole entire drawer of them, okay? And she forgot all about them because, we grew out of that McDonald's stage,
Yeah.
the Happy Meal stage. We was getting big kid meals after that. So, but I really appreciate everybody for coming and watching and all that. And if y'all have any questions, I'll keep a look at the chat, and I'll answer them as they come and go. So, but I hope this was okay. So
That was
and I
great.
I really do appreciate you letting me come on and talk about it.
Absolutely.
And just remember, 1 in 5 kids a day is way too many.
I know. I agree with you.
A 5-year survival rate is not long enough.
No,
So,
it is absolutely not.
and especially when it comes to children, like you should never have to worry about a child's childhood being robbed. You shouldn't have to go out to a tombstone and visit your child.
I know.
You shouldn't have to tell their younger siblings that don't remember them all about them every day so they know who they were. You know, It shouldn't be. Anyways, I will. I gotta get to Mike.
Okay. Have a wonderful night.
I will. I'm excited. So, and
I bet
thank you
you
so
are.
much, Mike.
Sure, you're welcome.
I appreciate you as always. You're my very favorite. So, all right. I'll talk to you later. And thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
How do I do this?